Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Christy. I am the Marketing and Events Manager here at Kids and Company, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar today. Our special guest that we have this morning is Nancy Kopman. Nancy is an early childhood educator and composer. She has been creating, testing, developing, recording, and performing her educational songs for children of all ages for over 20 years. Nancy's work is celebrated worldwide by educators, therapists, family program directors, parents, and caregivers. Her music is used in schools, childcare organizations such as Kids and Company, camps, and it can also be found on TV, radio, and online on her website and her YouTube channel. Throughout this webinar today, if you have any questions at any time or any comments, feel free to use both the Q&A and the chat function, and we'll be responding to your comments. With no further ado, welcome Nancy.
Hi, Christy. Thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy to be able to reach the people who are part of the corporate membership at Kids and Company. I'm very proud that my music is being used in all of Kids and Company's child care centers internationally in Canada and in the United States. And it's been a pleasure being aligned with the values at Kids and Company for the past 5 or 6 years since we first established our connection with each other. So today I'd like to talk to you a bit about music. As Christy mentioned, I am an early childhood educator and I'm a musician, and I use my music as a tool to teach babies, toddlers, and school-age children specific developmental concepts and skills that are useful in terms of developing their brains, their emotions, the way they treat other people, the way they perceive other people. There are all kinds of levels to the music that I write to children, but the main goal behind my songs, and each song is very different, is to nurture. So I'd like to talk about why music is such an important part of early childhood education on 3 different levels: babies, toddlers, and school-age children. So before I get into the nitty-gritty of what I've observed as an early childhood educator using music as a tool to teach, I'd like to just touch on a few different things that you may or may not already realize about music as a very, very important tool. I keep calling it a tool because it is. It's a tool, it's a strategy, and it's a very useful one. And it's applicable to all areas of development in early learning environments. So music can be a trigger. It can be a memory device. It can be used to enhance language. It can be used as a memory tool. It can be used for social emotional interaction among the children, introducing important concepts about socializing and recognizing emotions. It can strengthen fine and gross motor skills. It develops thought processes. There are all kinds of studies, psychological studies, that indicate that music helps to create and nurture and build neuroplasticity in young children and in babies. If you're familiar with that term, neuroplasticity, that if you're not familiar with that term, it basically means changing or altering the way your thought processes unfold under certain circumstances. Music can be used to introduce math concepts. It builds values through storytelling. It enhances and nurtures imagination and creative thought. It can be used as a tool for meditation and self-regulation. And of course, most of all, it's used as a means to enjoy our experiences together. It's a stimulating, a means of stimulating children and adults together and helping everybody get to the same place in terms of joy. And it can also be used as a scheduling tool. So I'll go through some of those things that I've touched on in my discussion about babies. So let's talk about babies first. With babies, I run classes in home and in schools, daycares, preschools for infants. Now you might think to yourself, and something I hear quite often is, what do babies get out of music? How can you possibly teach them anything? They're babies. Well, if you're ingrained in a baby's world day after day, hour after hour, you start to notice what triggers their interest. And if you can pinpoint those areas of interest, then you can use those as a means to build on knowledge that they're acquiring. And babies are amazingly resilient, and they are like sponges. We've heard that many times over. So they can't wait to learn. So with babies, in terms of music, every sound that they hear is a new and unusual sound. So when you think of things that we take for granted, alarms, a beep on your phone, the way a car horn sounds, a coffee maker grinding the coffee, every sound that we take for granted in our everyday lives is a brand new sound, and it's heard on a very intense frequency with most babies. So music plays into this in a very, very complex way, because every instrument that you use in a song, whether it's the low end sounds like the bass, the drum, or the high end sounds like a keyboard sound or a flute or a guitar, something with more treble in it, all of those sounds are stimulating a baby. So personally, I feel that music for babies should be very, very simple, so that you're introducing one sound at a time, so that they have the opportunity to absorb the sounds that they're hearing and process them in a meaningful way. And they're always looking for patterns as well. So the more patterns we can use in our music that we're presenting to babies, the more they're able to use those patterns as a reference point. And I can get into that in a little bit more detail if I use an example of one of my songs, which is called The Animals. And this song has 4 different voices. There are no instruments in this song. This song has an elephant, it has a giraffe, it has a bird, and it has a butterfly. And each one of those animals represents 4 aspects of a choir vocal range. So you have the elephant, which is the baritone voice. You have the giraffe, which is the tenor voice. You have the bird, which is the alto voice, and you have the butterfly, which is the soprano voice, low to high. So when each of those patterns come across the screen, for example, in the video for the animals, which you can find on my YouTube channel, which is called Music with Nancy, you see the elephant go across with one sound, bum, 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 bum. And then you see the giraffe go by, bo-dee-da, 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 deo. And then the next one is a bird, and it goes pee-deep, 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 pee-deep. And then the butterfly goes across, pee-lee-dee-da, pee-lee-dee-da, pee-lee-dee-da. And then each one of the animals comes back onto the screen one at a time, so that you have 2-part harmony, 3-part harmony, and then 4-part harmony. And then after that, each one goes away one at a time, so that babies are introduced to 4 different patterns that come together and then go away one at a time. So this builds, I was talking about math before, how music can introduce math. That song teaches mathematical components, which are patterns, building on each other, and also adding one at a time and subtracting one at a time. So you're introducing concepts like addition and subtraction on a very basic level, which prepares them for what they're about to learn later in life, in school, in terms of math. So music is also, as I've just demonstrated with that example, it's a great way to build important skills that will be built on more later. And often parents ask, when should I introduce my child to a formal instrument? Because they're very eager to stimulate their children with music. But you don't need to introduce a formal instrument right away. In fact, sometimes it's better to wait until the finger muscles are developed enough that they can actually use their fine motor skills to produce sounds, whether it's on a piano or on a guitar. But these early introductions with songs that have a purpose behind them those are the introduction to building knowledge musically, to get them to the point where they can continue with formal music training with an instrument like a piano or a guitar. So getting back to babies, you can see how it's very easy to branch off and talk about things in the future, but that's what we're doing with babies, because when we introduce music to them, so many new thought processes and so many new thought patterns are developing, they're being stimulated, and they're growing with every song we sing to them. And it's even more profound an impact than books can be, because books are great. I love books, and you open them, you look at them, you see the pictures and everything, but music stimulates brain activity, and it gets them thinking and feeling and developing inside, instead of just showing them something and saying, here's something that you need to learn about. It actually absorbs. So as I was talking about with patterning develops problem-solving skills. It develops creative thought, branching off on a pattern that you recognize. It stimulates anticipation skills. It stimulates prediction skills. And it also plays a big part in language development as well. So language structure, when you think about language, it is musical. Think of that sentence that I just said. Language structure is musical. You heard my voice go up and then go down. Babies are very, very finely tuned and acutely aware of musicality in our voices when we create sentences or laugh or respond with a sound or change our tone of voice. So music is really everywhere. And when you're introducing music that has a purpose behind it, you are stimulating them on a natural level because their brains are designed to be stimulated by music, but you're also stimulating them on an educational level because you're tricking them into learning with the content that's in the song. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later on when I'm talking about using music as a means to help older children memorize specific information. Music with language reinforces sentence structure, high frequency words and word combinations, just to keep on that topic of music as a means to introduce language. Sentence structure often includes heavily used repetitive sentences, like just off the top of my head, monkey see, monkey do. That's something that you hear people say quite often, and they say it the same way. So when you say something musically in a sentence, or if you say something in a repetitive way in your language patterns, your baby's going to pick up on that. And music is designed to be repetitive. The lyrics are repetitive. The verses are repetitive. The chorus is repetitive. So you're getting practice for language, receptive language, meaning perceiving language and ingesting and retaining language, and diffusive language, which means generating language yourself. So the more you'll find children listen to a song that they recognize over and over and over, the more likely they are to start imitating the sounds that they hear. Think of children who get the wrong lyrics to a song and they sing it funny. Well, they're just reproducing the sounds that they're hearing, and that's language practice. So I always find that very interesting and exciting. So the next thing I'd like to talk about when it comes to music is toddlers. So toddlers, you can take the things that I've just spoken about with babies and you can build on that in terms of the complexity. So when you're talking about math skills, for example, with patterning, patterning is just such a natural byproduct of music. So with math skills, instead of just recognizing the patterns and using a song like The Animals to recognize building one sound on top of another and then taking one away, which is introductory addition and subtraction. We're talking more with toddlers about timing, counting, patterns that teach them to come up with their own ideas, generating patterns themselves. So one of the things we do as early childhood educators when we're implementing math in our programming is we'll show them a pattern that repeats and then ask them to tell us what the next part of the pattern is. So if you have circle, circle, square, circle, circle, square, circle, circle, they'll most likely say square because it's a musical pattern. It's also, music can be used with toddlers as a transition tool to help. This is one of my favorite things to use music for. And children in the toddler years are very, very receptive to a stimulus that reminds them that they have to do something. And music is a really useful tool in this situation. For example, I have a tidy up song that I use. It's called It's Time to Tidy Up. And I created this song and showed the children in my classroom what happens when we turn on the song. We start picking things up and putting it away, and then you turn the song off and you go on to something else. And then the next time you're ready to tidy up, you do it again. And then the next time you do it again. And they start to recognize the musical sound as an indicator that there's an action that needs to follow hearing that sound. And as human beings, we're very, very conditioned to respond to sounds and in society. Think, for example, the chirping sound that some cities have for the walking signal across the street. When you hear that chirping signal, even if you're not visually impaired, you know that you have to cross the street. So in transition times in classrooms, this is the perfect opportunity to prepare children for social interaction in the real world. You can use a tidy up song for tidying up. You can use a rest time song for rest time. In fact, I have a series of rest time songs. There's a video on my YouTube channel, Rest Time Songs, and it explains how you can not only use a song for rest time, but you can prepare children for rest time by using a series of songs that have them calming themselves down and winding things down, and the music gets softer and slower until they physically feel ready to rest because of the music that they're hearing in their environment. You can also use it for waking up. I have a song called It's Time to Wake Up that people often tell me that they play in the morning, and when their children hear that song playing, they know it's time to start getting out of bed, and it's a kind of a fun way to wake up. So another transition that you can use at home. Transitions like lining up in the classroom. Many teachers use my song. It's time. Everybody line up is the name of the song. So they start playing the song, and everybody knows that it's time to line up. And the song has the information within the song. Everybody line up, line up, line up. Everybody line up now. And it describes what you're supposed to do in the song. You can develop all kinds of concepts within the lyrics of a song if it's worded and gauged towards toddlers to the point where they start generating the words themselves and teaching you what they've learned. So music is really useful in that way as well. You can also use music with young children, with toddlers specifically, as a great way for developing a sense of spatial awareness and independent expression of rhythm. So I'm talking about dancing. We all know that toddlers love to dance. And I actually saw a video recently of a mom who had pulled up to her child's daycare center, and the children were all playing and digging and climbing, and she turned the music up in her car and opened the windows, and all the toddlers started dancing, like wildly dancing. And it was really funny to see because they're so cute and they're such good little dancers because they don't care what they look like. But it's also really indicative of what I was saying before, how music can be used as a tool to elicit a response. It's a stimulus that elicits a very specific response, and it's a very natural response. So when you're using music as a means to get them up and dancing, you're exercising their gross motor skills, you're exercising their direction following skills. You're exercising their sense of rhythm, and it's so much fun. Let's be honest, we want them to have fun. And when children, toddlers specifically, are having fun, they're so open to learning, much more open to learning than if you're doing formal instruction. So this is another reason why I gravitate towards using music as a tool, and a very effective one at that. Related to dancing, music is also an excellent way for children to interact and connect socially with their peers. So when those toddlers were dancing on the playground that I described, they were all looking at each other and laughing because it's fun to watch other children dancing. And that promotes a bond, a social bond between them. They're all moving to the music together. And music also has that potential to influence their emotional state of mind. You can have music that sounds upbeat and exciting, and if you turn it on, you'll influence toddlers to feel that way. If you have music that's calm and quiet, like what I was describing before with my rest time songs, or rest time songs in general, you'll actually see a physical effect in most of them. Now, we all know all toddlers do not act the same at all times. I'm speaking in general terms. I'd like to see a classroom where you show a group of toddlers one thing and they all have the same response. That's slightly impossible. But we all know that once we repeat things on a regular basis with toddlers, that they do start to accommodate. There is no magic answer, but music is definitely very helpful in terms of managing classroom behavior and climate. Music can also introduce self-talk to toddlers. Now, what I mean by self-talk is that inner voice that we've heard so much about. And if we think about it, when we encounter challenging times, we do tend to think back to things people have taught us in terms of managing frustration, tolerating challenging situations. We might think something like, I know I can do this, or I've got this, or I've got to do this, I know I can do it. And that kind of thing can easily be conveyed to toddlers and young children through music. So for example, one of my songs is called Wonderful You. That's a good example. It's a song that's designed to create an inner voice by having lyrics in the song that remind you that being different is better than being the same, that people love you because you're you, and when things get difficult, remember the people who are in your heart, they'll always be there. Give it a listen. It's called Wonderful You, and it is designed to build resilience in children by creating that inner voice that has those key phrases to help them feel confident and secure and in charge of their own actions. So that's another very, very important feature that music presents when you use it regularly with children. Also, music can be used as a means to develop emotional regulation, and I can talk about that more when I cover music as a means to teach older children. So just to finish up with toddlers, music can provide the opportunity to exercise hand-eye coordination skills. I often use instruments when I'm teaching large groups of children, and what I like to do is get them to try an instrument after I've shown them how to use it. And to be able to generate a sound with a complex instrument, and let's face it, all instruments are complex, even if they are designed for children to play with. They still have to figure out how to work them, how to make the sound with them, how to use them. So the more they practice using instruments on their own and figuring out how they work, they're developing their hand-eye coordination skills. And that can apply to more complex instruments like a guitar. Sometimes when I'm singing with children, I hold my guitar up like this and they crawl up and they put their fingers through my guitar strings and they strike the strings and they see the cause and effect relationship between their hands and using them to produce sound. So instrument play is very, very important in terms of developing fine motor skills and cause and effect concepts. Let's move on to the next notes that I have about toddlers, which include gross motor exercise. So when we talk about upbeat songs, like I have a song called Bicycle, and what toddlers like to do, and babies can do this too with help from their grown-ups, is they lie on their backs and they put their feet up in the air, and the song suggests that they make their legs go round and round like this, and we sing, I'm riding on my bicycle, I'm riding on my bicycle, I'm riding on my bicycle, and then the bike goes up and down and up and down, and it goes fast and it goes slow. So imagine them having to control their leg muscles, their hip muscles, their back muscles, their stomach muscles. This is a very useful song in terms of developing gross motor skills. You can also play any kind of fast song, jumping song that gets them moving. And as I mentioned before, toddlers are very quick to respond physically. It's a natural impulse. So getting them moving is very easy when you have music at the ready. With toddlers, music can also help them follow directions. As I mentioned before when I was talking about the Everybody Line Up song, you can say it's time to play the Line Up song, and you turn it on, and if you've practiced it, they're following directions. Following directions can also be extended to the concept of just following the actions that you're doing as a parent or as a teacher. So I have a series of Follow Nancy videos on my YouTube channel. There's a playlist called Follow Nancy, and you can see what I mean if you want to use that as a means to interact with your baby or your toddler musically. It's just me showing you the actions to my songs, and you just follow along, and that teaches children how to follow directions on a very basic level. And that comes in very handy when they wind up going to school for the first time or in an early learning environment for the first time, and the teacher is demonstrating an activity that everybody is participating in, because that teaches them how to participate as part of a group as well as following directions. So that's a great way for music to teach following directions. I'd like to also talk about learning about body awareness and control, muscle building, exercise and repetitive movement. I talked about that a little bit with the bicycle song. I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself. As you can see, I love talking about this because this is something that I live every single day, and I see the benefits of using music, not just as a teacher teaching musical lessons to babies, toddlers, and older children, but the bond between parent and child is so vastly enhanced by engaging in musical activities together. So it really packs a lot into it, music, in terms of the benefits for parents as well as teachers. And when it comes to literacy, music can be one of the first introductions children can have to understanding letter sounds and how they function in a word. There are songs that have alliteration in them when you have the same first letter. That's very common, a common pattern or a common formula that people use when they're writing songs for children. I have a song called I Wrote This Song, and it has it's based on initial letter sound concept recognition. And the pattern in this song is I sing, I wrote this song all by myself, and then we sing la 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 lee lee, and then you go on, and then you come back again and you say, I wrote the song all by myself, and you use a different letter, ta 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 ti ti. And again, you go back a different letter, ma 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 me me. So that kind of song reinforces that there are different sounds that make different words. That's a fun song to sing with them, by the way, because inevitably somebody always when you ask them to choose the next letter to use, like I will ask them, what letter would you like to try next? Would you like to try T? And T sounds like this, ta ta ta, ta 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 ti ti. Does anybody else have a sound that they'd like to use? And inevitably you have that one child who uses the letter P, and everybody has a big laugh over singing pa 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 pee pee, because toddlers love to talk about pee pee. That's always really funny. So yeah, you introduce an awareness to letter sounds with the younger ones. And as you get older, you can expand on that with the older children. I have worked with speech pathologists in the past to develop some of the concepts and the structure of my songs. And one of the things that's very important to me in terms of the songs that I use or the songs that I write is making sure that there's an opportunity to exercise the tongue muscles, the lip muscles, and the movement of the mouth as a whole to create sounds. So for example, I have a song called I Like to Make Music, and that song is all about making sounds with the different parts of your body. We have clap, 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 we have pat, pat, pat. But what I'm talking about with language development and the movements with your lips and your mouth and your tongue, that song has, and when I introduce that sound, I like to put my finger next to my face like this, and I move my tongue and my finger at the same time, so they see that there's something going on inside my mouth. And they are fascinated by that, and they want to try doing that, and they imitate that. There's also, which I do in that song, and they love doing this action along with their mouth. And when they accomplish making that sound for the first time, it's a real accomplishment. It's a real triumph. So that encourages them to generate the sound by themselves. So let's move on to talking about older children. Now, one of the things I've been wanting to talk about that I've been holding back on is one of the most important things to me is building emotional tools through music. So one of the things that is really important in terms of self-regulation is breathing. And breathing is a natural component or element of every song we sing together, because you have to regulate your breath. And one of the ways that we can control our breath is with a breathing exercise within a song. So I do have a song called Breathe In, Breathe Out. And the only lyrics in the song are breathe in, ooh, breathe out. And all you have to do is breathe in and breathe out to the song. And as you do it slowly, it does create an awareness of the diaphragm muscles and the air inside their lungs, and gives them an introduction to having that relationship with the way their body works on the inside and how breath can generate sound. And that's also a useful song for rest time. If you're using rest time songs, deep breathing exercises are it's an excellent way to relax the body naturally. But with emotional development, you can find so many songs out there that develop a child's sense of understanding their emotions and other people's emotions. So another example from my own work, I have a song called Faces, and the video for this song, Faces, has just different faces with different attributes, different style of eyes, nose, mouth, doing different facial expressions as the song moves along. And the song talks about, what do faces tell you? We see faces all the time. Each part of your face shows feelings just like yours and like mine. And we talk about how your eyebrows move up and down, your nose moves out and in, and your lips move all around to make sounds that tell people what's inside of you. And this also helps children recognize emotions that they feel themselves in others, which develops empathy. Another song that helps develop emotional awareness and regulation is a song that I have called Hard Feelings. And Hard Feelings is a great song for developing an awareness that it's okay to have feelings that make you feel a little bit uncomfortable inside, but as long as you recognize what's happening and you stop and say what it was that made you feel that way, take a breath, close your eyes, and try to work through the hard feelings until they don't feel as hard anymore. So music has this magical way with older children in terms of building that inner voice that I was talking about before, with songs like Faces and Hard Feelings that also help them recognize important emotional traits in others. So again, not just emotional, but social emotional. So music is very, very useful as a tool to capture attention and then insert information. What would I like to talk about next? I'm starting to get close to the end of my talk, and there's so much to talk about. Well, with older children, my songs for older children are always designed to be mnemonic devices, which is a memory device. So music can be used in general as a means to remember something or remember many things. Take, for example, the alphabet. When you're alphabetizing something, whether you're putting things in order in a card catalog or you're organizing things by somebody's last name, how often do you catch yourself on a conscious level anyway, singing the alphabet song to yourself so that you know which letter comes next? We've all done that, and that's because that's our reference point for that information. Everything is so much easier to remember if you have a song that goes with it. So, for example, I can sing the alphabet backwards just as easily as I can sing it forwards because I have a song about the backwards alphabet. And children as young as 2 can produce a backwards alphabet for you who know that song. So for older children, songs like my songs, the 7 continents, 5 oceans, the provinces and territories in Canada, it's called the Canada song. The USA song has all 50 states in it. And Planets is a song that I have also that teaches all the names of the planets. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard from fans and families that I work with that their babies are singing all the names to the planets, and they're not getting the words quite right yet, but the structure of the words is there. So we were talking about that a little bit before when they're creating their own versions of the lyrics. It's actually great language development. And then you can build on that language development with older children because the language is, the structure is there, but the concept behind it is now apparent to them. So again, when you're playing music for babies and toddlers and older children, it's good to have music that has been designed specifically to include different stages of development so that everybody can not only enjoy it together if they like the music, they're all learning at their own developmental stage. So it's appropriate for all children. And that's also extremely important to me as a composer and as an educator. So I'd like to also talk about building social expectations in terms of values. We can teach sharing, waiting turns, and patience through music. So these are the nuggets that I like to talk about that people don't really think about. You think about turning on a song and they dance to it, but there are so many important things that are going on behind the scenes, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to go through some of these with you. Sharing, waiting turns, and patience. So when I introduce an instrument, for example, like I was talking about before, when you have an instrument and you show them how it works, inevitably babies and toddlers grab. And I allow it because that's what they're supposed to do. They're learning to use their hands to grab things that are interesting to them and explore them. But what I don't do is I don't let them take it from me. First of all, I'm stronger than they are, so they can't take it from me. They can grab it, but when they see that it's not going anywhere, they inevitably let go. So I hold something in front of them very, in a very strong way, and they can grab it and they can feel it. And I talk about what they're doing as they're doing. Oh, you're touching it. That's bumpy. And when you touch it like this, does it make a noise? It goes ch-ch-ch. You did that. And we talk about all the things they're doing as they're touching it, but I don't give it to them. And then when I see that they're ready for me to give it to them, and I have to know them well in order to do that, I'll give it to them. And then I ask for it back so that they give it back to me. And then I immediately give it back to them so that they see that just because you give something back to somebody doesn't mean that you're never going to get it back again. And then I say, you're sharing. We shared. I'm sharing with you, you shared with me. And then you can extend that next time by asking them to share with somebody else. So musical instruments are an amazing opportunity to instill the value of sharing. One of the things that frustrates me as an educator is watching adults take something from a child and give it to another child and say, share. That's not sharing. that's having something taken from you and given to somebody else. So they don't want to share because sharing doesn't feel good. So we have to present things in terms that make them feel good and make them want to share. And instrument sharing and exploration is a wonderful way to do that. I do that in almost all of my classes. And by the end of a 10-week session with toddlers, I can sit back and give them an instrument and they independently share it with each other until everybody's had a turn. It's remarkable. Music in older children, let's get back to older children, can also play a major role in developing confidence in public speaking. We all know how scary it can be to get up on stage and be part of a play. And how often have we seen videos or seen in person some poor little toddler who doesn't know what they're doing, or some older child who doesn't know what they're doing on stage or what their purpose is, and they cry and they shake and they develop anxiety associated with being on stage. Well, that can be avoided with practice in the classroom with music as part of a group. If you have some of the children sitting to the side and they're the audience, and the rest of the children are in front of that audience and they perform for them, and you teach the audience how to clap, you teach the people on stage how to bow. Performance skills are so important in terms of developing confidence with public speaking. And public speaking is a very valuable tool, skill that we need to have developed by the time children are a certain age, because that can help determine their success in whatever career they choose. So I don't want to get too far off topic with that, but music does provide an opportunity to practice public performing. Also, if you're just to touch back on performing, music also provides the opportunity to work together on a project. We're all singing the song together. We can all hear each other. It's an important experience as well for young children to learn to participate as part of a project, singing a song as a choir, performing on stage, playing instruments. Sometimes you see older children singing a song for parents and they have bells that they have to sing at play at a certain time. All very, very valuable experiences, musical experiences. Yeah, so I just want to make sure that I've already covered some of the things that I have in my notes here that I'm looking at while I'm talking to you. I'd be happy to open up the floor to any questions that you might have, or any points that you would like to make that you thought of during my talk. I'd also like to share with you what my website looks like. If you are intrigued by any of the song ideas or concepts that I talked about that are embedded within my songs, my educational music for children, I'll show you what my website looks like. So this is my website. It's nancykopman.com. You can also reach it by looking up musicwithnancy.com if you'd like. And you can learn about my philosophy and my mission. And you can also look at my complete collection of music. And you can download or stream my music anywhere online. These are the Follow Nancy videos that I was talking about before, where it shows me. There's a green background and I'm singing my song, and it has all of the actions to the songs that you can follow along with at home. It's like having a virtual music teacher right in your living room. And I do design it that way so that it's the feeling that you get is that I'm singing just with you and your little one or little ones at home. They're very, very simple. I don't believe in flashy, and I don't believe in overstimulating tools to teach babies, toddlers, and young children. I think that simple is best. So if you're the kind of parent that is avoidant of screens because you don't like the flashiness of it, my videos are very simple, very, very simple. Me, green background, music, that's it. And the lyrics to my songs are here. Then if you want to learn more about my resources like rest time songs, circle time songs, songs you can use as part of your bedtime routine, rest time routine, I have a blog called Nancy's Notes. So there are articles there that you can read as well. And you can find me on Instagram, Music with Nancy. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Music with Nancy. And you can also contact me through my website. So I'm now at the end of my talk for today about music as a tool to develop language skills, to develop math skills, social skills, emotional recognition, breathing, specific information. I see that there is a question, so I will take a look at that right now. So
I can read it for you, Nancy.
Okay, good, because I can't see it.
Is, can you recommend any instruments that are good for children with fine motor skills issues?
That's a good question. Well, one of the things that I would start out with would be the parachute. So the parachute is very, very easy to grab onto. Sometimes they come with, there are special parachutes that they have at places like Gymboree and family centers where they do music classes. And I have one of those parachutes myself. I don't have it with me right now, but often they have a handle on the side, like going all the way around the perimeter of the parachute. You can grab onto that and we shake, shake, shake. I have a song called Shake, Shake, Shake that's designed just for the parachute use to help them develop their rhythm and following along with what they're listening to. And it also develops the words up and down. So getting back to your fine motor question, you can grab onto the parachute just with your hands like this. If you're able to close your hands, you can hold on to it. Another instrument that, well, my favorite instrument to help children develop their fine motor skills is my guitar. I happen to have a 12-string guitar, and on my guitar, you can see a picture of it here. I think this is my 12-string in this picture. It is. So if you look at this, the 12-string guitar here, you see right in here, they love to put their fingers in here. They love to put their fingers in here. They love to touch the frets on my guitar. They love to strum my guitar. And at the bottom here, there's a bridge and there's some pegs that hold these strings in place, and they love to drag their finger across the bottom of it. And that's also fine motor stimulation. Another instrument that I can think of that's great for children who are having trouble grabbing onto things is any kind of instrument you can hold in your hand. So there's so many that I'm thinking of right now. Which one would I like to talk about most? I think the triangle. So if you have a mental concept of what the triangle looks like, it's a metal triangle. It has a little stick, metal stick that comes with it, and you hold a string or a strap at the top. And they hold the little stick, the striker, and they go ding. So this would be a really, really useful instrument for developing the strength you have in your hand, the speed with which you strike the instrument, and you can, and it's encouraging in terms of experimenting, because the harder you do it, the louder it is. The quieter you do it, the softer, the softer you do it, the quieter it is. And they also like to stick the stick inside and go ding, 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 and that requires hand-eye coordination as well. Another instrument that I like to recommend that parents get for children who are learning to develop their fine motor skills is one of those wooden frogs that you can get. I should have had my instruments with me so that I could show them to you. So I have a little wooden frog, and it has a wooden stick, and you drag the stick across the frog's back, and it makes a little, like, I can't imitate it. It kind of sounds like this. So you drag it across the back, and again, the harder you do it, the louder it is. The softer you do it, the quieter it is. Piano, perfect instrument for developing fine motor skills, because if you don't have intricate control of your finger muscles and your hand muscles, even if you just mash the piano, you're creating a sound. And sit your children at the piano and walk away, parents. Let them explore, let them dream, let them enjoy, let them figure things out for themselves, because a lot of strengthening of fine motor skills, as well as all the other skills that we've talked about today, happens on their own. So if you leave them to independently play the piano, you'll start to notice that the sound changes from this to this to this. And when they start realizing the cause and effect relationship between how their finger muscles work with the sounds that they're hearing, they'll start to generate different movements with their fingers. So it's a very natural, I love the piano. And when I was really, really little myself, I would sit at the piano for hours and hours and hours. And I'm getting older now, so my fine motor skills are needing a lot of practice in order to stay strong. But when you're developing those fine motor skills at the piano, it really strengthens those muscles to the point where when it comes time to learn how to write, you have those developed skills already. So those are a couple of things that I would recommend for helping children develop fine motor skills.
Thank you, Nancy. We got one more question.
Okay.
Do different instruments have different benefits, i.e. piano versus guitar?
Oh, absolutely. I think that each instrument has its own unique benefits. That's why it's important to make sure that children are exposed to as many instruments as possible, whether you're watching videos of different instruments being played, or if you take them to the orchestra. That's fascinating, especially before they start playing and you go down and you look inside the pit and you talk about all the different instruments. There's a wonderful piece of music called Peter and the Wolf that has different types of instruments that tell a story. There are no words in this song. It is just a story told by instruments. Look up Peter and the Wolf and listen to it together, and then talk about the different sounds that you heard. Which sounds made you feel most excited or interested? Let's talk about that type of instrument. Let's look up what it looks like. Let's go find one. Let's try it. If you see that your child is interested in learning about musical instruments, try to find out which one they like the best. Sometimes it's just trial and error, but different people are designed musically to be drawn to different instruments. I was always drawn to the piano. It's still my favorite instrument. But I was very drawn to the guitar at a young age because the sound is so very different from a piano, and it requires a whole other set of fine motor skills and gross motor skills. It develops your muscles. It develops the relationship between your left and right side of your body, develops the strength in the tips of your fingers on one hand in one way and then the other hand in a different way. So each musical instrument has different benefits, but generating music independently, no matter what the instrument is, stimulates the brain in a similar way, no matter what instrument you're learning with.
Perfect. So we actually have one more. What should we be doing as parents to get our toddlers ready for formal music lessons?
That's a great question. And I had started to talk about that earlier, and I think I got distracted by my excitement about all the different things I was telling you about today. So one of the things I hear very, very often from parents is, when do I start? What age is appropriate to start learning the guitar? What age is appropriate to start learning the piano? When do I start enrolling them in formal music training? Well, as parents, you know your child best. You have to remember that with everything you do in life. There should never, ever be pressure to enroll your child in any kind of lesson unless they're interested in it, and you also have to make sure that you speak with a teacher who is proficient in teaching young children music. So for example, here in Toronto, where I live, I am commonly known for introducing young babies and toddlers and young children to my musical lessons through my music. But I have a colleague here in Toronto, her name is Kayla, and she teaches children how to play the guitar. And she commonly recommends that you don't start before 3 years old because you don't have the muscle development and or the muscle strength typically. And the last thing you want is for your child to feel frustrated that they can't produce music. So I recommend having your child explore music on his, her, their own, in your own space, in a non-threatening environment, no pressure environment. let them explore, let them play. And when you see that they're developing their skills to the point where they would really benefit from having a teacher enhance their interest by teaching them specific skills and learning notation and theory, then that's when you start seeking out somebody. And ask your friends with older children, what experiences have you had with teaching your child a musical instrument? What teachers have been friendly? That's very key. You have to have a friendly, calm, relaxed teacher, in my opinion, to introduce music. I'm not a really firm believer in highly structured music programs for young children, because I think it's stressful for them. But that is just my opinion. You can formulate your own opinion based on everything that you've experienced in your life and what your child is interested in. But yes, I think that each child is different when it comes to formal music training. And as the parent, as I said before, you're the expert. So trust your judgment, watch them carefully, see how much they're learning, how quickly they're learning, and then seek out advice from people that you know who've had experience with good music teachers. So I think we're at the end of the questions, because I don't hear Christy. So Christy,
That's it.
That's it. Okay, thank you. So thank you to those of you who asked questions. If you have further questions, I love discussing music as a means to teach with parents and teachers. I have a closed group on Facebook that is a community that I've built that includes parents who use music and who specifically use my music as a means to nurture their children. That group is called Music with Nancy Group. So you can find it if you go to my page on Facebook, which is called Children's Music with Nancy Kopman, and you'll see the link to my group, Music with Nancy Group, within that page. So if you want to join me in that community, I love answering questions. I love talking to parents. I love sharing my experiences as a parent and as a teacher and as a musician. And I love sharing my resources with you and hearing how effective they are with you at home. So I hope to see some of you there. I look forward to getting to know you on a personal level. And again, I am so happy that my music has been aligned with Kids and Company's classrooms and that their teachers use my music in their classrooms, because the values that Kids and Company stands for, it's not just in their literature, it's not just in their policies, it's in the way their teachers treat each other, it's in the way their teachers treat the students, it's in the way the administration treats their teachers. I've been aligned with Kids and Company for probably 6 years or more at this point, and I am nothing but thrilled to know that my music has a place in this very unique, nurturing, and loving community of educators. So thank you so much for having me today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking about my passion, and I hope to connect with many of you soon. Have a great rest of the day.